This is who we are.
WAVR.
WADR, promoting dialogue.
It's midday in Dakar and 1 p.m. in Port Novo. Good afternoon and many thanks for staying tuned to West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting on 94.9 FM and around the world on WADR.org. Welcome to Newslink. Here are the top stories. Senegalese President Diomaye Faye concludes his friendship and working visits to Mali and Burkina Faso with a call to keep the dialogue window open.
That is why I am taking advantage of these friendship and work visits, which are particularly interesting for bilateral cooperation. I also use these opportunities to address these questions and express my availability to continue working with the other side to achieve convergence.
Guinea's junta leader, General Doumbouya, announces changes to his government to strengthen the country's governance strategies. Human rights organization Amnesty International pushes for total abolishment of the death penalty from Ghana's laws. And on World No Tobacco Day, the WHO calls on governments to protect young people from tobacco use. Please stay tuned for details of these stories and more.
Here is Abdullahi Hassan with Newslink.
Many thanks for joining our broadcast and welcome to our listeners in Gambia, Ghana, Liberia and Sierra Leone. We begin in Mali with highlights of the meeting between Senegal's President Bassirou Diomaye Faye and Colonel Assimi Goïta in Bamako. Diomaye Faye arrived in the country Thursday as part of his tour of the sub-region and his first to the Sahel, where the countries seek to break away from ECOWAS. During the discussions, several issues were addressed, notably the strengthening of bilateral cooperation in the security sector between the two countries. However, Mali's pullout from ECOWAS dominated talks between Goïta and Diomaye Faye, who anchors the message from regional leaders. Nadiri Titi reports.
Upon his arrival in the Malian capital, the Senegalese president, Bassirou Diomaye Faye, was received with full honors at the presidential palace. His meeting with the transitional Malian president, Colonel Assimi Goïta, lasted an hour. The working session was then expanded to include both delegations composed of several ministers. President Faye emphasized Dakar's desire to strengthen bilateral cooperation with Bamako.
Senegal shares a unique history with Mali. I've come as part of the continuity of these relations, which we want to strengthen on the diplomatic level, on the commercial level, on the level of consultation to learn how to deal with all the challenges we share, such as terrorism, the fight against illicit trafficking, and ecological challenges.
The two leaders then addressed the crucial question of Mali's announced withdrawal from the sub-regional body, ECOWAS, in January 2025. The Senegalese president, committed to regional and African integration, hopes to convince Bamako to reconsider its decision.
I had a lengthy discussion with the colonel. I grasped the Malian position, which, although rigid, is not entirely inflexible. We believe it is crucial to maintain collaboration with all parties involved. We have an inheritance from the founders who had a vision that was undoubtedly meticulously planned and implemented. However, we also bear the responsibility of passing on a torch for a better future.
The Senegalese president, Bassirou Diomaye Faye, left Bamako in the early evening to travel to neighboring Burkina Faso.
Nadiri with that report. Still on issues related to Senegalese President Bassirou Diomaye Faye, he has reiterated his calls on the leaders of the junta to keep an open mind to return to ECOWAS. He encourages the Burkinabe interim president, Captain Ibrahim Traoré, to remain open to dialogue for a lasting solution to be found to their concerns.
Toute ma solidarité et ma fraternité avec le peuple burkinabé, frère.
I extend my solidarity and fraternity to the Burkinabe people who are going through a difficult period. I also express my admiration for their foresight, combativeness, and resilience. I understand that positions may somewhat be fixed. but I perceive a window of opportunity to re-establish dialogue. I am always ready to say that.
Il ne faut pas non plus fermer les fenêtres et tirer les rideaux, qu'il faut laisser des espaces pour nous aller, nous disputer s'il le faut, mais vider ce qui est en nous, mais surtout pour permettre à des pays qui sont un peu plus éloignés sur le plan physique des théâtres d'opération liés à l'insécurité, de comprendre ce que les pays qui le vivent directement sur le terrain sont en train de vivre, de ces visites d'amitié et de travail qui sont particulièrement centrées sur la coopération bilatérale.
That is why I am taking advantage of these friendship and work visits, which are particularly interesting for bilateral cooperation. I also use these opportunities to address these questions and express my availability to continue working with the other side to achieve convergence. We must discuss what does not work and how to change what does not work, because we have the historical responsibility and the heritage of our forefathers regarding the ensemble will fight within the ECOWAS together so that ECOWAS remains.
Et que nous devons protéger contre toutes les velléités qui vont dans le sens de détourner la CEDEAO de son objectif d'intégration africaine.
President Bassirou Diomaye Faye of Senegal speaking in Ouagadougou. In a significant development, Guinea's transitional president, General Mamadi Doumbouya, has announced changes to his government aimed at strengthening the country's governance and communication strategies. These changes include the appointment of a new manager for the Directorate of Communication and Information (DCI) and the national advisor to the National Council of the Transition (CNT). Echi Atisu has the details.
On May 30, 2024, General Mamadi Doumbouya, leader of the junta in Guinea, appointed Musa Condé, also known as Ednock, as the new manager of the Communication and Information (DCI). Condé previously served as the head of the digital division within the DCI. Musa Condé's appointment follows the departure of Musa Moisela, who has been appointed as the Minister of Culture in a recent government reshuffle. Per the government, this transition in leadership signifies a strategic move to align key personnel with roles that best suit their skills and qualifications, ensuring effective governance and communication strategies. In addition to the changes within the DCI, General Doumbouya has also appointed retired Colonel Sion Keita as a national advisor to the National Council of the Transition, CNT. Colonel Keita's appointment marks a pivotal moment in the governance structure as he takes on this crucial advisory role, replacing Captain Amadou Sow, who has been appointed as a maritime prefect.
A report filed in by Echi Atisu.
More stories coming up on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
Remember, we are live at wadr.org. In Togo, representatives from the police, customs, armed forces, and forestry departments have concluded a 3-day workshop intended to improve the management and transparency of international arms trade, particularly in relation to the implementation of the Arms Trade Treaty (ATT). The 3-day meeting, which took place from May 28 to 30, brought together 35 staff members from 80 implementing agencies. The goal was to enhance the skills of personnel involved in treaty implementation with a focus on annual reporting obligations under Article 13 of the Arms Trade Treaty. According to Minister of Security and Civil Protection, Majoba, the adoption and entry into force of the ATT in 2014 marked a significant step forward in international disarmament. The meeting was also seen as an opportunity to improve interagency cooperation and coordination, which are crucial for ensuring the regularity and effectiveness of reports. Meanwhile, the federal government of Nigeria has commissioned a new security facility in the nation's capital, Abuja. Known as the Defense Intelligence Agency (DIA), the establishment will augment the security sector's intelligence gathering capabilities in combating terrorism and other security threats. Commissioning the project, President Bola Tinubu held that the ultimate goal is to improve the operational efficiency of the Nigerian armed forces. WADR's Usman Omar completes the story.
The Defense Intelligence Agency office complex in Abuja, equipped with cutting-edge intelligence gathering equipment, is an impressive sight. The 3-story building, designed with both aesthetics and functionality in mind, is painted in red and black, the colors of the army, and is situated within the Mogadishu cantonment in Abuja. At the commissioning of the edifice, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, represented by the President of the Nigerian Senate, Godswill Akpabio, emphasized that his administration is committed to providing the necessary tools to bring the country's enemies to their knees.
I know that with each passing day, the adversaries wish that our commitment in responding to various threats would wane, our optimism dim, and our courage evaporate. The underlying spirit of Nigerians cannot and will never yield to forces of darkness.
Chief of Defense Intelligence Agency, Major General Emmanuel Odiande, noted that the newly constructed Defense Intelligence Agency building serves as a testament to meeting the essential requirements needed for staff to perform at their optimal level.
This is in tandem with the fact that intelligence is a critical tool of statecraft that provides the necessary foreknowledge to protect our nation from surprise attacks, either through hostile foreign military or internal challenges such as the current insurgency, banditry, and other sundry crimes confronting our dear nation.
The military chief further informed that the Defense Intelligence Agency is taking a significant step towards establishing an Intelligence Defense Technology Center. This center aims to equip the defense with the capabilities to tackle current and future security challenges and warfare. For Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, Osman Omar reporting from Abuja.
We remain in Nigeria because reactions are multiplying in the streets of the country after the change of the national anthem. Nigeria has opted for a return to the old national anthem titled Nigeria We Hail Thee, composed by a British woman in 1959 and adopted at the country's independence. This anthem was, however, abandoned in 1978. The anthem was readopted by President Bola Tinubu after being approved by Parliament and the Senate. Some Nigerians have spoken out about this change.
I cannot sing the new national anthem. To me, as a good citizen, the passage and signing into law of the new national anthem, considering the current situation and challenges facing the country, is not a priority. The current new national anthem does not sufficiently represent the country's value or identity.
New national anthem? It is not priority. In fact, people are dying, starvation everywhere, hunger and other needs that citizens, me as a citizen of this country, like today, I went to the market, maize is 1 major is 1,000 naira. So how can it be my priority? The national anthem, whatever you call it. The one that Nigeria is using, that is the second one, because they said the one that they are replacing now is the old one. So definitely, I Rise or Compatriot is the best that reflects Nigerians' symbols.
Well, as a citizen, I feel like we are grappling with so many challenges at the moment. We're dealing with insecurity, a hike in electricity bills, a hike in fuel pricing and everything. Everything has become so expensive and survival has become so difficult for Nigerians. This is literally the last thing that I feel like any country would be thinking about if we are even serious at all, because it feels like we have issues that are weighing the people down, that the people are clamoring, and the only thing we are getting in return is a new national anthem. Where is this even coming from?
Comments collected by Alvaraka Radio in Bauchi State, one of our partner radio stations in Nigeria. And just before the break, let's take you to Ghana, where human rights organization Amnesty International is making a case for the total abolishment of the death penalty from the country's laws. So far, 184 convicts are on death row in Ghana as of April this year, according to Amnesty International's World Human Rights 2023 report. The tally increased from last year's 180 after 4 persons were sentenced to death during the first quarter of this year. The report in relation to Ghana focuses on witchcraft accusations, women's and girls' rights, sexual minority rights, excessive use of force, rights to health, and environmental issues. Speaking to journalist country director of Amnesty International, Genevieve Partington, explained that while Ghana had not carried out any executions since 1993, it was critical that the government commute the death sentences of those on death row to life sentences.
There were 2 amendment bills put forth in Parliament last year where Parliament voted in favor of the two bills, that is the Criminal Offences Act and the Armed Forces Act. However, when the bills got to the President's table, he signed the Criminal Offences Act but did not sign the Armed Forces Act, which means that the death penalty in Ghana is currently partially abolished. From the report, you'll see that there are a total of 180 persons on death row in Ghana. That is as at 2023, December. Who knows, there might be an increase in this. The issue with death penalty is Amnesty International is completely against it because there are issues where it does not serve as a deterrent, that is one, and also mistakes can be made in the justice system. Lastly, there's the issue of the persons on death row. If you look at the 180 persons on death row, you realize that they come from poor, underprivileged backgrounds. So that means there's a sort of disparity, and it's underprivileged people that are being put on death row.
Genevieve Partington, Country Director for Amnesty International, Ghana. You are listening to Newslink here on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting from Dakar, Senegal, and live at wadr.org. Here's a reminder of our top stories. Senegalese President Diomaye Faye concluded his friendship and working visits to Mali and Burkina Faso with a call to keep the dialogue window open. Guinea's junta leader, General Doumbouya, announces changes to his government to strengthen the country's governance strategies. Human rights organization Amnesty International pushes for total abolishment of the death penalty from Ghana's laws. Still ahead in the news on World No Tobacco Day, the WHO calls on governments to protect young people from tobacco use. We also have the guest interview and sports update. Please stay with us.
Fresh and breaking news all the time. Hear it first as the news breaks, only on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
Many thanks for staying with us. We're live on Facebook, RWADR English Service. On the occasion of the 2024 World No Tobacco Day, the UN Health Agency WHO is amplifying the voices of young people who are calling on governments to protect them from being targets of the tobacco and nicotine industry. In a report by the World Health Organization WHO and STOP, a global tobacco industry watchdog titled Hooking the Next Generation, product designs and marketing campaigns were highlighted as strategies used by the tobacco industry to attract young people. The report shows that globally, an estimated 37 million children aged 13 and 15 years use tobacco, and in many countries, the rate of e-cigarette use is increasing. Despite significant progress in reducing tobacco use, the emergence of e-cigarettes and other new tobacco and nicotine products present a grave threat to youth and tobacco control. These industries continue to market their products to young people with enticing flavors like candy and fruit. We have an expert, Abdul Aziz Kasi, joining us with more on the dangers of tobacco intake. But before then, let's join WADR's Darlington Popper in Monrovia, who is standing by with a report on tobacco use in the country.
Liberia is a small country in West Africa with a population of over 5 million people. Established in 1822 and gained independence in 1847, the country witnessed a decade-long civil war in which almost half of its youthful population was involved in fighting. As a means of motivating the soldiers to fight more, the use of tobacco was widespread among armed groupings. Following the end of the crisis in 2003, the use of tobacco was extremely high as public smoking was the order of the day. However, in 2008, the country enacted a law prohibiting public smoking, a decision many saw as a part of efforts to limit increased rates of tobacco use and the attendant health concerns and costs. Interestingly, despite the ban, recent statistics from the Tobacco Atlas show that adult smoking is prevalent in Liberia, accounting for 8%, while youth smoking prevalent in Liberia is 1%. On the streets of Monrovia, Eric Nambe and Beatrice Sai provided their views on tobacco use in Liberia.
I think public smoking is not good. Even though the government passed a law about public smoking, But up to now, we can still see in the public space some people smoking. Sometimes you try to advise those that are smoking in the public, they get angry at you. So I think public smoking is actually dangerous for our health.
To a large extent, parents can be blamed, but not entirely, because peer pressure can affect any youth. The children live in a community. You can't tie them up. They have to associate with community members. So we want to look at this problem from a holistic point. I believe any law can be applied if we get the involvement of especially community dwellers.
Deconti Dolo, a social worker, narrates some of the challenges you face in her quest to sensitize the public against public smoking.
Public smoking leads to a lot of things, and it causes harms to non-smokers. So as a social worker, I've seen it interesting or best to come this far, because nowadays in Liberia, almost all over, there are so many race youth. There are so many people who are doing these things, smoking, and while smoking, they do it in the public web. Second-hand smokers will encounter them, and you, second-hand smoker, you get more affected than the ones who are smoking. Smoking causes or leads to tuberculosis. It causes cancer. It affects your heart and your blood vessels. It increases the risks of heart attack, and it leads to stroke. Instead of you coming among 2-3 persons, it will affect that group of people.
For now, the statistics also show that about 838 people die annually in Liberia. Hence, the need to focus more on awareness and ensure strict adherence to the anti-public smoking law is essential.
WDR's Darlington Pope and Morovia with that report.
Politics,
analysis on major news,
social matters, and all. This is The Guest.
World No Tobacco Day, observed annually on May 31, which is today, is an opportunity to raise awareness of the harmful and deadly effects of tobacco use. According to the World Health Organization (WHO), tobacco kills more than 8 million people a year, with around 1.2 million deaths resulting from exposure to second-hand smoke. Thus, this year's theme, Protecting Children from Tobacco Industry Interference, focuses on advocating for an end to the targeting of youth with harmful tobacco products. Dr. Abdulaziz Kassé, one of the founding members of several civil society organizations working on tobacco control in Senegal, spoke on strategies to protect children and youth from these predatory tobacco marketing campaigns.
We asked many people why tobacco was, gaining popularity in our countries. Just because tobacco industry comes in the country, goes to the Ministry of Health and the administration and say, tobacco is not that dangerous. And then we bring you money for you to build schools, hospitals, roads, and whatever. So tobacco industry goes into the administration and try and change the policy. Second point, tobacco industry try and make tobacco more affordable. So if it's affordable, what happens? Kids could buy it, and poor people also. So we have to raise taxes. Whenever you raise the taxes, people will smoke less. So tobacco industry tried and absorb the taxation. So the buyer will not feel it. Third point, what tobacco industry does, because of advertising, for promotion, sponsorship, many young people are impacted and they feel like, tobacco is not that dangerous.
What are the health implications for the children and youth exposed to this?
The impact, are very, very high. If you smoke tobacco, you produce 7,400 substances. All of these substances have, side effects on your body. And it will lead to 23 different diseases. The first disease is addiction. And the main factor leading to addiction is nicotine. But in the same time, substances in the tobacco smoke, many of them give a lot of diseases. Look at the hands of smokers. Look at their nails. They are, black, dehydrated. And then look at their lips. You'll see the colors will change. In the nose, you see that, the hair in the nose that are able to filtrate, but it's going into your lung, the filtration doesn't exist because you kill all the hairs in your nose. In the eyes, you have a lot of problems and wrinkles on the face. And then the mouth. The numbers of problems you find in the mouth of a smoker is just like, crazy. The tongue, the lips, the teeth, the parodon, the throat, inflammation, ulcers, and cancers. And the digestive tract will be diseased by the smoke, from the mouth to the end of the intestinal tract. And then when it comes into the bowels, many of the substances are, filtered and go in the blood. The first thing they do, there is a spasm of the blood. And that's why even one cigarette can kill a person. Because if you have one cigarette and the vessel collapses, that can kill you in seconds. Nicotine is not the substance that will kill people. Nicotine induces just addiction. You find very young children, less than 13 years, they sell them what they call poof. It's a kind of electronic cigarette these young boys and girls buy. And they can gain from this thing 25 times more nicotine than what they get from cigarettes. And they will not be able to stop.
What can be done to ensure that children and young adults are protected from this tobacco industry influence?
The only one thing we can do is regulation. We cannot regulate. We have no other solution than ban all of these products. All the other solutions, Africa cannot use or regulate them. Even the US have problems doing so. European countries also. And now, Food and Drug Administration have a tobacco control department just for that. If we had that amount of money just for regulating tobacco use, we should have built, more clinics, more schools, more roads, and whatever developmental, projects.
Dr. Abdulaziz Kasi, an anti-tobacco campaigner in Senegal. Up next is Sports Update with Sankule Janko.
Hello, a very warm welcome and thank you for joining us. The African nations will resume their road to qualification for the FIFA World Cup 2026 next week, according to CAF official website. Match Day 3 and Match Day 4 of the qualifiers will be played between 5 and 11 June 2024. 9 African teams are guaranteed to compete at the World Cup. Another will participate in the playoff tournament, as the Global Soapies will host 48 teams for the first time ever. Winners of each group will automatically qualify for the FIFA World Cup 2026. The best runners-up from the groups will play in a CAF playoff tournament. The winner of the CAF playoff tournament will play in the FIFA playoff tournament. Below are some of the matches involved West African teams to be played over the next 7 days. Sierra Leone will take on Djibouti, Togo will entertain South Sudan, Namibia will welcome Liberia, Guinea-Bissau will entertain Ethiopia, Mauritania will take on Sudan, Senegal will play DR Congo at the Diamniadio Stadium, Benin will entertain Rwanda, Algeria will take on Guinea, Mali will take on Ghana in an all-West African affair. Nigeria, meanwhile, will welcome South Africa. Cote d'Ivoire will take on Gabon. Cameroon will entertain Cape Verde. And Gambia will take on Seychelles. And that's it for sports. It's back to you.
Sports was brought to you by Sankule Janko. And that's how we wrap up this edition of Newslink here on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting from Dakar, Senegal. Thank you for listening, and many thanks to Mustafa Sek and Mawadou Diouf for the technical support. Do interact with us via social media platforms X, formerly Twitter, Instagram at WADR News, and on Facebook, WADR English Service. I am Abdullahi Hassan. Good afternoon.
And many